Hi everyone, this is Michael Cuomo from Stockton University's Integrating Technology in the Curriculum course, part of the MAIT program, and this is our final screencast for the curriculum. So as you remember, my curriculum was the Stockton University's BA in History curriculum. This is the map that I developed for it. So up here at the top, these are the different areas that students have to take courses in. Starting from basic introductory courses to more advanced thesis courses, as well as the random cognate courses. Down along the side here are the different competencies and objectives they need to take, as well as a map of how they should master those different curriculum. So there's different competencies throughout the curriculum. And then here at the bottom, we're looking at the different topics that we looked at this semester, the different technology topics, online discussions, all of that. So these 10 topics, each one we looked at the different, looked at how we can integrate them in each of the curriculum, throughout the curriculum, and I put together a rather detailed and complex different ways we can integrate the technology into the curriculum. But sort of the main takeaway that I got out of this is, although we looked at each of these topics individually, and each one sort of had its own benefits, its own limitations, and all of that, it's not really, on the whole, just a bunch of different individual tools and ideas, but it's really comes together, and each different topic integrates with each other and creates this well-rounded sort of curriculum where it's integrate with this technology, and each of the different areas sort of plays on one another, and sort of requires the other one to exist in order to work well. And so, looking at these different things, I sort of come up with these four basic features that this sort of technology integration involves. So one is it's web. The web is integrated everywhere. So this is the online learning, accessing the online learning on different devices, mobile devices, being able to have online discussions and video conferencing, and being able to connect in classrooms all over the world. So this web, this idea of online learning, technology integrated learning, is really built into the core of this curriculum. There's also multiple options on what and when to learn for students. The idea of the flexible learning, giving them options on how they learn. This is the idea of the flipped classroom, being able to choose when they want to learn the topics, giving them the ability to decide to take MOOCs in addition to courses that may not be offered on campus, so expanding their course offerings. A big thing too is also offering and sort of including meaningful assessments and feedback. Ability to use video conferencing, chat communications, screencasting, real-time assessment where students can take tests and get immediate answers. These are all benefits that this curriculum sort of offers, and this sort of well-designed courses can offer. And finally, there's multiple ways to connect and interact. And these are, like I said before, the ability to chat with one another using tools like Slack, video conferencing using Google Hangouts and Skype and all of that, screencasting. I think if you look at the web integration and all these sort of play together, you're not limited to that classroom where the instructor's teaching, but it's really limited to the world. You can take classes with people all around the world, learn so much more things, learn topics that are interesting to you, yet it's still sort of built upon the idea of what this curriculum offers. And so just to real quick go through some stuff. So online discussions, we're using tools like Slack, where students can talk with one another really easily. They get notifications on their different devices when people talk. The online learning portal, this is sort of the main hub. It pulls into the idea of the flipped classroom, which is providing this digital learning experience that is very engaging. It's very well done, well informed. It's interactive. It's chunked in a way that's going to give students options on when and how they learn. Um, it's sort of expanded into the idea of, in this online learning environment, they're using video conferencing to chat with one another, especially if they're taking MOOCs with other students, or if they're just taking classes that are big and they want to create study groups. They don't necessarily have to be in the same room together. The idea of screencasting is important. This sort of is being integrated in with this online learning platform, as well as providing tools for assessment feedbacks and in this curriculum, specifically the primary source explanations. We're using real-time assessment with this screencasting and online learning to get a better sense of how we are, and giving students the ability to understand if they need to go back and look at things in more detail, as well as giving the teacher or the instructor a better idea of how well they're doing in real time, not just sort of at the end of the class when it's really too late to do anything about it. These sort of video conferencing, gamification, and all that sort of ties in as collaboration, which is having students work together more. Big feature of these big changes are, it's more student driven, not so much, the instructor passively instructing students. Again, I said the flipped classroom I think is a big important thing here. Then new ideas too, like gamification. We're trying to integrate ways of getting students motivated more to teach the different levels, whether that's the interaction or the introduction of badges, getting a better understanding of different game mechanics and simulation role-playing games to get a better sense of if you were in this situation, what would you do, and all of that. And then, the mobile learning I think is key, plays in with the online learning, which is just giving students the flexibility to decide, what content they want to access on what device. They're not limited to a classroom. They're not limited to, their dorm room. They can literally learn anywhere, anytime. That's sort of a big macro level view of my technology integration. Of course, none of this is possible without, the ADDIE model sort of integrated in the core. So let's go through the final elements of thought. So the purpose of technology integration. So as I said earlier, it's basically its fundamental purpose is to enhance learning for students. The ultimate goal is to get students to learn more, learn better, and that's what this technology integration is supposed to do. And it sort of plays on my fundamental, or my golden rule, which is that technology should only enhance learning and never inhibit it. The question, it's sort of like, how do you provide a quality educational experience with this technology in an age where higher education is changing? We looked at various ways that it is changing, the different roles that students and teachers are playing, the rise of mobile learning, the rise of online learning. And so this technology enhanced, in all these changes, we want to ensure that we're going to get the same quality experience, maybe even better quality experience, through the use of this technology, as well as meeting certain new challenges, like how do you get students who are literally all over the world, to come together and learn one subject at one time. And so the technology has the ability to tear down those kind of barriers. The information we used, so basically all of the different readings from this semester, some very, very interesting stuff, some very interesting further reading and references in all those readings too that I've gone through, and I've looked at some really cool, more ideas about the different topics. Also my own experience as a student with these kinds of tools and technologies I've sort of used to help build this. As a student, I know what I like, what works, what doesn't work sometimes, so using that experience to help others build meaningful learning experiences. And also information from other fields like web design, design principles, psychology, and then also the other ideas that my fellow classmates in this class have, is also very informative and beneficial. So my expected outcome of this is that the students are going to learn more. They're going to learn better. It's going to create an educational experience that's a lot better than what's currently available, and ultimately use the knowledge that we gain from this to make it even better um, down the road. So the different concepts and theories. So first and foremost, the ADDIE model I mentioned before. Something that I can't stress enough is that this sort of technology integration will only work if the class and lesson is designed well. Technology isn't magic; it's just a tool. I think too often people think that by just throwing in an iPad in the situation, everything's going to just magically work out, but that's not the case. Um, and there's a lot of other ideas that are important to these to these sort of technology integration, things like design principles, web design concepts. And each topic individually had their own list of best practices, which are important to keep in mind when designing this stuff. For example, online discussions need an instructor that's going to play an active online presence at all times to sort of keep the motivation going. Um, so the assumptions. So one big assumption that I have about all of this technology integration is that it is always going to work. It will always be the best idea. That's something I struggle with. I get these ideas in my head and I say, oh, this is perfect. Really, it's really trial and error, and it's really dependent on the students. I think this is why the evaluation side of ADDIE is so important for this. It helps us see, what instruction works and what doesn't, and allows us to adapt it. And another assumption is that this integration is going to be easy and will be compatible with each topic, in class. And sometimes that's not true. Sometimes the best is going to be an instructor, lecturing and you having a pen and pencil writing it down. It's really dependent on, the individual student. So the implication and consequences. So one big implication is this is going to change the way teaching and learning takes place. The result, we hope, is that students are going to be more engaged with the learning, and that there will be more higher level thinking taking place. But ultimately, this is going to be a big change, and that's where so the point of view comes in. For instructors, I guess this sort of change. This type of integration is going to be a big change for them, especially those instructors who are sort of have their own way of doing things. I don't necessarily think we should go in and say, nope, you're doing it wrong, and completely redo it. I mean, it's going to be, it's going to require, that they, that they're going to be willing to make the change and are going to, have the patience and time and courage to make that. It's going to be difficult, but ultimately they need support and resources, to get it done, and the tools to get it done, as well as knowledge and skills, to actually do it, which is, everything we learn, they need to know this too. And ultimately, they need to have people they can turn to for help and questions. And, they're going to have to constantly evaluate what they're doing, especially in the beginning, to make sure that they're doing whatever they're doing is actually working. For students, their sort of point of view are one is that they're going to have the tools to complete this. A lot of this requires a computer of some sort, internet access, accounts with appropriate tools like Skype or Slack or Google Hangouts, and also that they're going to have the time and motivation. Ultimately, we want all this learning to be student-centered, which means that it's tied to their needs and expectations. So we need to keep them in mind when designing this. And finally, the administration. It's going to have it's going to have to provide the resources and support that the instructors need, but most importantly, create a climate where this kind of integration is encouraged, and help keep instructors sharing ideas and tips and asking questions and, constantly researching and evaluating what they're doing and adapting what they're doing to changing needs. Ultimately, this is a major, big change. Technology integration, like I said, it's not as easy as just throwing some sort of cool tool into the equation and everything just works around it. It requires a lot of thinking, a lot of planning, a lot of testing, a lot of feedback. But ultimately, I think that the benefits outweigh the costs tremendously, and we're going to see a rise in the in an increase in student learning and teaching, and it's going to be because of all this kind of stuff. So it's a very interesting topic, very interesting ideas. I know I was a history major, so looking at this sort of technology integration, I know it would have been not only really helpful, especially being able to easily contact other people and work with each other collaboratively and everything, but also just a little more interesting um, to study and read and stuff. So if you have any questions, let me know. Feedback's always appreciated. Thank you.